Welcome to Unprecedented Destination Success, the podcast that uncovers the secrets to building unprecedented and unstoppable success with your Worldventures business so you can live the life of your dreams unapologetically. Never miss an episode. Subscribe at unprecedentedtv.com or just click the link in the description below. I'm your host, Davide Di Giorgio, and I'm on a mission to bring you the everyday extraordinary people who've risen to the top. And I'm asking them to share their best expert tips, experiences, and road-tested secrets that have allowed them to create unprecedented success so that you can do it too. My guest today is Lorenzo Roybal. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So, Lorenzo, the first question I ask every guest is, what are you celebrating right now?
Oh, we are about to have our second daughter here in about 4 weeks. And so we are getting geared up for that. So we're super excited. Round two.
I love it. I think that is the best celebration of all, is the celebration of life. In fact, the book that I just wrote, Being Unapologetic, starts with that, is, life begins with celebration. So that's an awesome one. Okay, so a couple of rapid fire questions for you. Lorenzo, where do you live?
Denver, Colorado.
Awesome. When did you get started with Worldventures?
We got started when I was 19 as a freshman in college up at University of Northern Colorado. So it's about an hour north of where I'm at right now.
Nice. And what is your rank in Worldventures?
International Marketing Director on my main position. And then I have a second position at Regional Marketing Director.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow. You're up there then for sure. So, and now the size of your team, combined or separated, what are we looking at now?
Just total. We've put in over 38,000 members since we got started. So it's been a lot of fun for sure. It got bigger than we ever thought it would get.
Yeah, that is super amazing. So, okay, before Worldventures, did you have any network marketing experience, or what was your job experience before that?
No experience at all. I was 19. I was broke, freshman in college, didn't have a job, didn't have any income, didn't have any business background or any entrepreneurs in my family. I'd never even heard of the word network marketing. I'd never even heard the term pyramid before. So I didn't have any kind of conception towards any network marketing. So when my buddy showed it to me, it was just something that was just so new. And we were just excited about doing something a little bit different, but it was our first rodeo for really anything.
Amazing. So, okay, something a little different. What do you believe?
I believe in, first, as far as my faith goes, I believe that, Jesus as a savior for sure. But, as far as business goes, I believe that network marketing is for sure one of the best ways to go. No doubt about it, especially if you're really looking to get ahead.
Yeah. And my gosh, look at the results that you've created in the last several years. That's really astounding. And what do you love?
I love my family, love business. I love, kind of walking in alignment with what God's got planned for me, because that's kind of where all the magic happens, is when we're in alignment with that. But I guess those would be the main things. And
what do you love about Worldventures?
I love everything. It's hard to pinpoint any one particular thing. We have an amazing owner and founder, Wayne. We got an amazing leadership team. We've got an amazing training system. We got the best product on the planet. We've just got, something that has all kinds of different dynamics, the relationships, all the intangibles that come along with obviously travel and making money. There's a lot of stuff that you don't plan on getting out of it that you end up getting out of it. But it's just an all-encompassing thing that, you just fall in love with the entire deal.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I'm now about 6 weeks or so in, and I already love it too. So I can see there's a lot to love about it. That's for sure. All right, so let's dive a little bit deeper. So if we go back to month 1, you first started. If you could go back there, what advice would you give yourself today?
Yeah, I get that question a lot, and really, it's always just I would believe bigger, and I would do things faster, because there's a process that you have to go through, not just in Worldventures, but in any business. There's a process to go through from start to, your end game. And, we kind of call it the dream, the struggle, and the prize. And you can't bypass the struggle. There's always got to be that medium that you go through. And so I would just go through the stuff faster. The people that are going to say yes are going to say yes. The ones that are going to say no are going to say no. And you can't change that. You just kind of let the chips fall where they do. So if I would have gone through those numbers faster, I could have just collapsed time frames a little bit quicker and, maybe gotten to my destination a little bit faster. So I would go through it faster. I would believe bigger would probably be the more important one there, because I think that as far as from a mechanical standpoint, as far as doing presentations and stuff like that, I think I did about as much as I could do, my entire career in Worldventures. So I don't know that I really could have gone a lot faster. Well, I guess there was always another gear. But when I first got started, I didn't really, have the belief where I needed it to be as far as, what was possible with this and what I deserved and, what we are capable of. And so as we plugged in and continued to go to trainings, our belief level continued to rise. And as our belief level rise, then our activity started to follow that, because your belief level or your activity never exceeds your belief level. So if you don't believe you can do it, then you really don't do it. So the more we believed, just the more stuff started to happen because of our activity. So I would just do those things a little bit faster, but at the same time, I'm grateful for the process we went through, because, there's a lot of leadership and just personal growth that we went through in that process. And so bypassing that, would have short circuited our success, at the end of the day anyway. So kind of a double-edged sword there, but yeah, just doing things faster. That's really all it boils down to.
Yeah, and I love that a lot of people that I've talked to have said that going faster. And I love how you actually identify that, well, you can only go as fast as much as you believe, because if you don't believe in something, that you're just going to slow down, and it's just going to. And what I've discovered actually in my observation, building businesses in my life, is that the only way that you can believe in something unequivocally is if you're what I call unmessable, and just be like, so in this case, the no's, so what? Okay, but what happens, I think, in the beginning, and even to me right now, and I'm pretty good at taking no's, but you're just kind of like, oh gosh, okay, it's going to take me longer to get there. It's like, well, no, it's clearer. Actually, the no's make it clear for you of what works and what doesn't work, and the people that you want, people that you don't want. It's not a bad thing necessarily to get the no's.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a
So
lot of those no's end up turning into yeses down the road, So the ones that stay in it for long enough, those seeds sprout a little bit later on down the road. So just got to stay in it long enough.
yeah, was it Dave? I think it was Dave Fleming was telling me about Rosalie, who it took him a year to get her on board. And I think that's just an
Yeah.
amazing story, right? That he's like, for a year, talk about belief, and sometimes you just have to be patient. And if you believe something, Elon Musk believes he's going to die on Mars, just not on impact. And I'm pretty sure he's going to make that happen some way or another. So, okay. So when we go back to that beginning again, what is some of the things, the number one thing that started really working for you when you started? What really worked well?
Yeah. Once we learned what to do, and sometimes more specifically what not to do, things started to move a little smoother. Because when we got in, we didn't have any local trainings. There wasn't a lot of stuff online. I mean, our resources were pretty limited, 11 years ago. And there was nobody local to really plug into. It was just me and a few of my goofball buddies that had never done it before either. So it was kind of like the blind leading the blind. And so we really had to figure it out. And so the first few mistakes that I made was, first off, I started trying to explain it to my friends, which you quickly learn is not a great idea. And then the other thing I was doing was, when I was showing my friends, I was doing it by myself. And so I was the only one that they were hearing from. And a prophet's not, welcome in his own hometown. And, just as, my friends love me, I'm still kind of the village idiot. They know too much about me, and they know I'd never made, $1 million before. I'd never been successful in business. And so when I would show it to them, it just would be, they just didn't have any credibility. And so when we went to a training and just learned how to properly invite somebody, because your goal is just to set appointments. Your job isn't to sell them. It's to just set the appointment. That's what we sell, is a 45-minute block of time. And so you just got to get good at getting people to sit down with you, whether it's over lunch or coffee or to a home event or a big shot presentation, whatever the median is. And, so learning how to properly invite somebody. So then we started getting more people in front of it, which obviously helps with getting people signed up, because if you can't show somebody, then you can't enroll them. And so now we were showing more people. And then the other factor was, I learned, how to use a third party, which was just get my prospects, get my friends in front of somebody else that I could make the expert, that I could edify, build them up and make them sound like they walk on water. And so I did that with my buddy Brian, who's the one that helped us get started. Because he was really, I looked up to him my whole life. I had a lot of respect for him. I have a lot of respect for him. And so when I was showing my friends, it was just all about, you gotta come meet Brian. All right, Brian's this, that, and the other, putting him on this huge pedestal. And so now when my friends were looking at it, it wasn't coming from, like, Brian could say the exact same words that I'm saying, but they're just going to hear it differently because it's coming out of his mouth instead of my mouth. And so my job was just to spotlight Brian, get him in front of him, and then he could edify me a little bit and then help get them started. And so once we started doing that, our sales started to increase. And then obviously we started to duplicate that. But those were probably the two biggest things for us in the beginning that helped us start getting traction, which is really just the core of our business anyway.
Yeah, and that's really great advice. Definitely the explaining thing is a big one. Now, let me throw a little bit of a curveball to you. So in the beginning, like in my case, for example, and some of the people that I'm bringing on, we have really great rapport with people. I've been doing monthly events for the last year. So I have a lot of people who trust me, know me. And so what they want, they'll ask me questions, which then puts me in the case of potentially explaining it. So what do you say in that case? How do you sort of stay excited and vision led with people who are just like, look, just tell me what it is. What is it? I trust you. What is this thing?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of twofold. I'll try to, typically, if you start asking people questions, they start talking about themselves. And so I'm pretty good at deflecting. If somebody starts hammering me with 21 questions, I'll give them a deflective answer, and then I will start asking them questions because people just love talking about themselves. And so they'll get caught up in that, which takes the pressure off of me. So that's kind of how I'll avoid explaining it in general, whether it's my close friends or just whether it's a prospect of somebody that I met at the gym or whatever the case may be, is just keep them focused on themselves. And then, you can make some kind of an invite when you're leaving the conversation because you're on your way out. So you kind of have an excuse to end it. So that would be the first tier of it. The other thing is, for people that do have, rapport with their contacts, like we do have a lot of successful people within the group, you being one of them where they probably have enough credibility to make phone calls to their friends and even sign them up over the phone or just get their credit card because they trust them enough or just go show them by themselves. And what I try to encourage people to do is, even though you can do that, I still wouldn't, only because, you may have all of this influence with your people, but their people in our business duplicate everything that you do. And so they typically go show their friends how they got exposed. And so if you explain it to them, even though you could probably get them to enroll because of your influence, they may not have that same influence with their friends, but they're going to still go do the same thing. And then they're going to get slapped around a little bit and it's going to stop right there. And so the duplication does not happen. And so I would rather, we show them in, just a systematic form where you're inviting them to an event, you're getting them in front of somebody else, or they're at least getting on a three-way phone call with somebody else, just so that they can not just hear from somebody else to bring some more validity to it anyway, but also just so they can see how that's how we expose people, that their friend, even though, they're a huge stud or studette, they could probably sign me up themselves. They were still, that they still got me on the phone with one of their leaders. And I kind of, since I get exposed like that, my first instincts on how to build it are going to be that process, which now it starts to move faster because they know that they don't have to be the ones doing it all by themselves, but they just have to use their resources and use the system. So as tempting as it may be, I'm just like, just get them, show them in a general presentation so that they can see it the right way. So they're still going to sign up, but now, they're going to be off on the right foot instead of trying to go, saddle up and just do it by themselves.
Yeah, and that's a great point, what you said. People love to talk about themselves. So I work a lot in the speaking world, and which is extremely ego-driven and a very fascinating world. And I always tell speakers the biggest mistake that they make is they lead with, oh, I'm a speaker, and then they go on and on and on about all their topics. And then they say to someone like me who can book speakers, is like, oh, I just want more speaking engagements. I know what I offer as a speaker. And I'm like, okay, let's just break this down a second. You just told me, someone that you don't know anything about, I can speak. I just want speaking engagements. So what I heard is like, you don't care about me. you just like, you want something from me. Instead, if you turn it around and just start asking questions and saying, oh, what do you do? What are you interested in? What's your vision? What's your goal? All of a sudden, people forget what they were even asking you about, and they're more interested in, like, you're almost helping them get clearer on what they want. And so I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
really great tool for people whenever someone starts asking questions, is say, well, let me ask you this. And you can start to
Yep.
figure out, do they want to travel more, for example? Do they want residual income, or whatever the case may be? And then you can say, well, hey, like, check this thing out. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. Thanks for sharing that. It's a really fine point that a lot of people don't get, because we want to try to look as the expert. But if you let the other person feel like an expert because you're just asking them questions and feel good about themselves, that actually works more in our favor.
Yep.
So, okay, in all these 11 years of building amazing people and building this amazing team to so big, what are some of your greatest success stories, people that you've been super proud of along the way?
We've got a lot of rock stars, and that's what I love about this business. Is it's, as much as it is about you, it's really not about you. I had to make a decision to do this thing to obviously get it rolling, but there's no way that I get where I'm at without a whole bunch of other people doing their part and winning in their own right. And I'm super grateful for that, for sure. But there's a whole bunch that I could rattle off. Some off the top of my head would be some of my the regional marketing directors and above, like, David Townsend and Nick and Danielle Greco and Mark and Sarah Wabanga. They've been some of the pillars of our whole business, because they all got started. We all got kind of started together within probably a year and a half of each other. And, so we had to go through, a good 3 or 4 years where we weren't rocking and rolling at all. We didn't have a huge team. We were doing the meetings, we were doing the presentations, we were going to the training, we were doing all the stuff that we needed to do. We were resilient, and especially them. Very resilient, very persistent, but they just continued to show up. And it's like time either promotes you or exposes you. And there's a lot of people that were in with us back then that didn't end up sticking it out, that ended up going to do something else, or they quit, they lost the faith, whatever the case may be. And they just, hammered down and put the anchor down and just kind of weathered whatever storms we went through those first 4 years. And then once things started to crank, they all kind of rose together, and they've been the pillars of our, tens of thousands of people team now. And I'm super proud of them, but I'm not here if it wasn't for them, either. So it's kind of cool how everything is tied together. But we definitely have some, I'd follow these guys to the end of the earth, because I know what we had to go through the first 4 years just to get to where we're at. And, those are the people that you want to do life with, are the ones that can, that can take a punch and then they get back up and they ask for some more, and they don't just, tweeter out and just go do something else.
One of the things, so, I've been in a leadership role pretty much my entire life, as a theater director, as a head of a music department in a school, as a yoga studio owner, all sorts of different things that I've done. What I've noticed also, again, as I build this, because I understand that if I truly want to build a residual income life and all of that, I can't do everything, and I'm really going to need to raise up other leaders. The belief that I need to have is almost like a crazy person, so that they see me and they're like, oh my gosh, David is like relentless. He's like sending texts all the time and building us up. And can you just talk a little bit about that over the years? Is like, how much energy have you had to put in to like really be that leader, the figure for your team to rise up with you?
Yeah. You got to lead by example. And so, doing all those things, that shows people that you're serious about it, that you're in it to win it, that, and people, I think they watch you when things are tough, because they, how you respond to certain situations is, that's kind of where deep down they decide if you're somebody that's worth, kind of hitching their wagon to. Because if you can go through X, Y, and Z bad situation, then, and come out on top or come out even keel, and it didn't really, while it may not have been fun, but it didn't really rattle you at all. Those are the situations that really build those bonds. A, if you're doing it with other people, but B, they know that no matter whether it's awesome or whether it's not so awesome or anywhere in between, that you're going to be there, still doing what you're doing and what you need to do no matter what. And so that's really all we did. We just fell in love with Worldventures. I didn't, when I went to my first training and got the vision, and I just decided that this is all I want to do, and in the beginning, like I said, I didn't have my belief really where it needed to be as far as what was possible for me. But I just figured, you know what, if I can just make enough money to live, pay my bills, and just be able to just enjoy just the company and everything that it has to offer, I would have been fine with that. And thankfully, it's gotten much bigger than that. But we were just going to do this forever, no matter what. And so we, just committed to that process where even though we weren't winning in a big way, we still did our presentations. We still went to the trainings. We're still talking to the people. And because of our, I guess the resilience and because of the persistence and all of that stuff, that's ultimately what people started to want to follow, especially with a lot of the people that I showed in the beginning that did not want to join. After 3 or 4 years that go by, they're starting to go through life and realizing, wow, this is not something that I want to do. And they still, whether it's on Facebook or whether it's in person, people watch you, right? Whether you think they do or not, they're going to watch everything that you do, because if they didn't join, more often than not, it's they have this deep-seated thing where they don't want you to win, even though they may not voice that. And so the more you persist on, the more it just kind of wears on them. And then eventually when they go through life enough, they see that you've been, this even keeled person, this steady Eddie, so to speak, that's just continuing to do what they said they were going to do. Then eventually those people follow in, and then they end up being some of your biggest rock stars, but they were 2, 3, 4 years delayed. Like I had a girl that I showed when I was in, that was one of my good friends in high school that I showed in the beginning, and she was like a real nasty no. She was like, no, don't talk to me anymore. Don't talk to my family. Like excommunicated me basically. And I wasn't mean about it. It's just like, whatever, you don't want to be a jerk. But after about 4 years, she ended up going through a little valley in her life. Saw we were still doing Worldventures, and she wanted to see it again. So we showed it to her. She signed up, and, she put a few hundred people in within her first 8 weeks. And she was one of my, biggest rock stars that year. And that was a no I had gotten 4 years earlier. So you just got to stay in it long enough to, I guess, reap the benefits of all that stuff. But at the end of the day, you just got to stay on point, stay, leading from the front, doing the stuff that that you need to do. And eventually, if you plant enough good seed in the ground, you're going to reap a harvest. Okay. But you can't harvest something that you've not put in the ground. So you just got to go do what you got to do.
Well, yeah, and you have to be consistent. I shared in the group, in a couple of the groups yesterday, that, a friend of mine that I shared, she does some other network marketing, and I wasn't trying to poach her at all. I just shared it with her because I thought she's amazing. She's really great at building rapport with people, and not like, you don't actually feel like she's the typical network marketer. And so I really respect that. So I shared this with her, and she's like, I'm not interested, but thanks, and it's all good. We're still friends. Well, she sent me a message yesterday, and she said, can I ask you, like, what's your secret? How I'm watching you build this thing, and I want to know how you're building this. Would you be willing to share with me? And so it's interesting. People are always watching, and if you're consistent in your own vision, eventually people follow you. So yeah, it's a really good.
Yeah, exactly.
What is the first step that you give to everyone who first comes on?
Yeah, first step is, we just run them through our little quick start training. So it's, let's get your travel party set up. So we want to get, in your living room, get a group of people together so we can show them what we're doing. So get your travel party set up, and then get your list down, your first 15, 20 people that we want to go talk to. And then we'll start getting some invites out there, and, we'll start trying to do it on the spot so that, I guess that first, because you want to keep it simple. Okay. So, because you don't want to teach, geometry to somebody who hasn't learned basic math yet, right? So you don't want to give them too much to bite off. So you don't want to overwhelm them, because they'll learn most of the stuff as they go. But you want to give them these baby steps of, let's get your presentation set up, let's get your list. And then more specifically, let's start inviting and doing some of that on the job stuff. Because if you can get, the first 15% right with people, all right, the other 85% is just going to come. And what I mean by that is that first 15% is so critical, because it's you helping them navigate certain things. And so, because most people, if you just give them some instructions on what to go do, and then you let them go home, or you don't circle back with them to actually do it, in person with them, or whether it's virtual now, but do it with them. Most people aren't self-starters. They're not going to go do it, or they might try it 1 or 2 times and, get slapped around a little bit, and then they just call it quits because they don't think it's working when they really just weren't doing it the right way. So if you can be there for some personal accountability on making sure that they're getting invites out, you can make sure that they're doing it right, because most people, even though we tell them till my face turns blue not to explain it to people, the first thing that they're going to go do, I know it, is going to go explain it to their best friend. And that's always a wild card. You never know what's going to happen. And so if you can be there to help them navigate, not just making sure that they're doing it correctly, that they're doing it enough, but also if they get some curveball responses or get some weird stuff, you can just help them navigate those emotions that go along with getting slapped around a little bit. Because if you can get them to get good and get through the first 10 or 15 invites, then they can start doing it more themselves and getting more independent. But I think a lot of people drop the ball on that first 15% because they just want to give them some basic steps. They go do it, and then they just expect the people to go do it, where it's a little bit more time consuming to sit there and do it with them or to set up a follow-up to do it with them. But you end up getting way more out of them because they learn how to do it, So it's like that tell, show, try, do deal. It's like you tell somebody what to do, you show them how to do it, right? And then you do it with them, and then then they can go do it by themselves. And so, but yeah, that first 15% is just so critical.
Yeah, when in doubt, people do nothing. Like if you leave people to their own devices,
Yep.
we just, that's just human nature. That's how we're wired. We do nothing. We'll sit on the TV and watch movies. But if you have someone leading you and showing you the way, then you're kind of like, okay, well, they're doing it, I should do it too. So okay, over the years, 11 years, my goodness. And you talked about those first 4 years. How many times have you hit the wall in these 11 years? And what do you do when you hit the wall?
One thing I guess going back to your first question, one thing I would have gone back and done more of in the beginning, or starting from the beginning, was just track more stuff and I guess journal more stuff. Because I would have a lot more concrete stuff to share from those first 4 or 5 years where it was a little rough. Because we hit the wall. We hit a wall all of the time. It just seemed like, especially in the first 4 years, because we didn't make a whole bunch of money. Most people, that join network marketing are doing it part-time. So if they make an extra $500 or $1,000, that's a big deal because it's part-time. It's on top of what they're already making. For me, I was full-time. So this is all I've ever done to make money for the last 11 years. And so if you're making, $8,000 a year part-time, that's a killer story, right? Everybody wants to hear that. But if you're making $8,000 full-time, nobody wants to hear that story. And it's not super inspiring. So I was, we were just barely getting by, kind of check to check or cycle to cycle or residual to residual. But, I don't know how many specifically, but we hit all kinds of walls. But no matter what the wall was or what the challenge was or what the storm was, they all show up in different ways. It's just, again, it's how you respond to that stuff. And I just learned a long time ago that the only way through is through. That activity is the cure to all ailments, right? If you're having a bad day, go to a meeting. If you got a no or you got 5 no's, go do another one. Go do another one. Go do another one, because you're always one person away from an explosion. And we've learned that. It seems like I've had to learn that lesson over and over again, because, we have different seasons that we go through, and there's certain times where, we don't have momentum or we don't have personal momentum, and, you're kind of in this drought. And then all of a sudden somebody shows up at a presentation, gets excited about it, and then boom, you have this explosion of business, and you're only one person away from that. So you just have to continue to go through the process, through your meeting, until you find those people. And you only need about 3 or 4 of those people to show up in your career to build a monster team. That's the thing that a lot of people don't get is, they feel like they got to go put in thousands of people themselves. No, you just got to go do the activity, go show the people. And then you might have to go through a whole bunch of people to find those 3, 4, or 5 good ones. But when you find them, your life changes dramatically. And things start to get start to get really fun. But, we just went and did another one, whenever I was down. I guess I'm not great at a lot of things. I'm not the most talented person. I'm not, a great speaker, not the best presenter. I'm not a great closer. I'm not a very confrontational person. But I guess the one thing that we did have going for us was, we just, we were just resilient. We just went and just continued to show up and just continued to do the activity until things started to happen. And we were just kind of stubborn in that way, where I was at least smart enough to stay around the environment to stay excited, because we're humans. We all, lose our battery charge, if we don't plug into some kind of a power source. It's just like your phone, if you don't plug it in, it's eventually going to die. And so that's why we have trainings. That's why we have presentations, because if you continue to stay around it, you're just keeping yourself plugged in so that you don't eventually die. Because if you get too far away from the campfire, really hard to find your way back. And so, so we were at least smart enough to not ever stray from the campfire and stay around it. So we had those breakthroughs, and they come for sure. You just, again, it's different for everybody, but if you cash out too soon, it's usually right before the magic happens.
Yeah, the only way through is through. And I always add to that and say, well, if you look at other people have gone through it, so why can't I? They're no more
Exactly.
special than I am. But usually people who are successful are no more talented or no more privileged than I am or you are. It's just a matter of how close did they stay to their vision throughout the time.
Right.
So over the years, have you developed a favorite hack or a trick, or is there a resource that you want to share with everybody listening in?
I guess one thing in general would be, especially if you're in a Worldventures, it's a training. We got, I went to my first training and I got the belief and I got the excitement, but I was like, man, cause I had this huge, just increase in belief and conviction where I wasn't just in Worldventures anymore, but Worldventures really got inside of me. And I had like made a decision that we were in it, up to that point, but that's when we made the decision that this is what we were going to go do and plant our feet in. And so I just figured, I was like, man, if I can just get my whole team to these trainings and they get the same feeling I got, this thing's going to explode. And so that's really all we focused on the last, 11 years is, we do our activity, we do the presentation, and then when the trainings roll around, we just get more people to the next training than we had at the last one. And if you start, because the way you add in our business is doing presentations, right? You get some that say yes. And so you can put in onesies and twosies and all that stuff. So you add, and then you bring all these people, get them to a training, and all their belief goes up. Now you start to multiply because they start doing it without you, and you have this multiplication in numbers. And so, so we just got really good at promoting the system, because if you promote the, if you build your business around the training, then the trainings ultimately build your business, okay, and multiply it, and that's what takes you to the next level. And so that's what we built our whole team around. And that's why we've been able to have such a big team, just because that's what we focused on. And the only way you get people to trainings is if you go to trainings, right? Because it's hard to tell people to do something that you're not committed to doing, right? Because you won't even talk about it if you're not going to a training, because you're afraid that they're going to ask you if you're going, and you don't want to have to tell them no. So you just don't even talk about it. So when you sign up for that next training, that's what we always did, was we never left the training without signing up for the next one. Because first off, it kept life from happening, because life happens to everybody. But if we were already locked in, then we would have to figure out a way to get there. But more importantly is now we were talking about it more because we were already committed to it. So we was always about, we got to get to this training, got to come meet, Wayne, got to see the bigger picture, all this stuff, and just promoted the heck out of it. And that's why we got so many people to come to trainings and drive 15, 20, 30 hours sometimes cross country, because we were so convicted in it, because we know the trainings work. So, so that's first thing. The other thing, I guess, on a comp plan thing would be, I think about 3 or 4 months that I learned that you could, and we don't recommend this to everybody, really the people that are going to be long-termers, but, the way our pay plan is set up is we have this wheels bonus that when your team is doing enough volume, it pays out anywhere from $200 to $1,000 a month. And so, and you can go look at the fine print on, how all that breaks down, but you can, you can only have one business center under your personal, Social Security. But if you open up an LLC, it takes a different EIN number. And so you can actually have another position that's just under an LLC. And even though you don't want to build the inside legs of those yet, there's some strategy which we can go over after the fact, but you can start hitting some of these bonuses through a few different positions. And so on one position, you can make up to $1,000 a month on this wheels bonus. But if you have another one, you could start funneling more of your personals through that position, and then hit it again on that one, and you can make up to $2,000 a month just on that particular bonus. And so if you do that, then down the road, you can start doubling up on your income for the same amount of effort. And so get with one of your leaders to kind of break that down for you. But we learned that, and that's been pretty cool, because that's how I've had to, like I have my main position at IMD, but I have another one that's at RMD. I have another one that's at director. I have another one that's a senior rep. And that didn't all happen at once. All right. We tell people focus on one first, but you can have these other positions as pieces of real estate that you're not going to touch right now. But everybody that you're putting in has to go under those positions. And so they're going to rack up value that down the road you can go in and tap into and earn some additional income. But again, get with us so that we can kind of break that down for you.
Love it. Yeah. And I learned that early on too. And so now my husband keeps asking me, okay, when do I get to start? When do I get to start? So we're starting to strategize, you know? So Lorenzo,
Right.
what's your vision with World Ventures and your team moving forward?
Just at a, we're real faith centered. And so I know, um, our faith has been, it kind of, keeps everything together for us. But, what I fell in love with about World Ventures, it gives us this, the more success you have in World Ventures, the more, just by default, you have more influence with people. You're kind of on a pedestal. You get, more credibility with people. So there's a lot of people that, you know, may not have normally looked up to you that now do just because of your rank or title. And so, so as you grow in the company, you have this, this big platform to have influence on, which obviously can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on who you are. But I just think, the more people that we can have, win within our team, not just in our team, but, company wide, the more people we have winning, the more people we have influence over. And I mean, there's just a lot of not saved people out there as far as, just Christianity goes. And so it's been a really cool platform for us to be able to, just share the good news with people and build relationships. And I know there's a lot of people in our team that have gotten saved just by being a part of World Ventures because of some of the people that they were around. And I just think that's super cool because that's a much more important thing at the end of the day. So my vision would just be, just the more people we have winning, the more of that can take place. And ultimately that's what, is going to matter at the end of the day. So that's just kind of where our head's at right now.
I love it. Yeah. So before I ask you for a final thought, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and sharing. For the viewers, remember to subscribe to never miss an episode at unprecedentedtv.com. All right, Lorenzo. So for that person who is starting out and maybe on the fence or not so sure, what's a final thought? What do you want to leave them with?
Final thought would be thank you for putting this together. I know this is going to add a lot of value to a whole bunch of people. So I'm excited to get a chance to meet you in person here pretty quick. And then as far as a new person goes, just, go do the presentations. Just get that list together. All right. Get with one of your upline, get with somebody that can run around and tag team stuff with you. If you don't have that, you've always got resources that you can get on a three-way call. So it's no excuse to not go show somebody, but get the list. Let's go start setting up some presentations and just get butts in the seats. Go put it in front of people and just be relentless with that. Some are going to do it. Some aren't going to do it. It's all good. But just continue to do that. And then the next step is get to the next big training. That's the best thing I can encourage anybody is outside of showing people, we have our next big event, that's in Las Vegas at the end of October. We have 4 big events every single year, and that's where all the magic happens. And you don't really get it until you go. And so you just have to take our word on it and trust us that even though it's going to be, $500, $600, $700 when it's all said and done to get to these trainings, it's not what it costs you to go. It's what it costs you not to go. That's a much bigger number. And so don't get too focused on that because you can never invest into yourself too much. This is what it is. It's an investment to yourself. So if you don't go, it's like saying, that I wasn't worth $500, which is not a good thing to believe, self-talk wise. And so get to that next training. That's only going to take things to another level. And then we just continue to do that stuff. And then before you know it, you got some stuff rocking and you got a team behind you. And then we just do the same thing over and over again, just with more people. So get that list, get the presentation set up, get your butt to the next training. Hopefully we'll see you guys out in Las Vegas. And that's where all the magic's going to happen. So I'm fired up for you guys. But thanks again for having me, buddy. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah, I will definitely see you at the View. And I know my vision is eventually to be speaking on stage in front of all those people because that is what I've been doing my entire life. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing this. So thanks again for coming on, Lorenzo, and sharing everything that you have. You're inspiring a lot of people to build their own dream lives. Certainly the proof is in the results that you've created over the last few years. I know I've learned a lot. I know a lot of people are going to learn a lot by listening and implementing what you've shared with us today. And for the listeners, thank you for listening and watching. I'm David Di Giorgio. See you on the next episode of Unprecedented Destination Success.